knowledge you need to... Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is where we take a really dense, specialized stack of information. Could be anything from high finance to, well, ancient metaphysics, and we distill it all down. We get to the critical, actionable knowledge you need to be, seriously well-informed. And today, we are strapping in for a very specific ride, a deep dive into the high-stakes feng shui predictions and the specific energetic warnings that are mapped out for 2026, which is, of course, the infamous firehorse year. The sources we've compiled, it's a deep collection of yearly affliction charts, sector warnings. They're all united by one core idea. It's the concept that these invisible energies in your house and your office, they shift every year. According to this material, ignoring those shifts can genuinely, well, the quote is, make or break your luck.
That's it, exactly. Health, wealth, relationships, stability. Our mission today is surgical. We are not here to talk about generalized prosperity. We're laser focused on the areas the sources flag as acutely hazardous for 2026. So we're looking at the Northwest, the West, South, Southwest. We need to understand the how these shifts can really impact you if they aren't managed properly.
And just to set the stage, our focus today is defensive, but the sources do point out some lucky directions. They cite the Northeast, East, and Southeast as the areas for growth and activation in 2026.
Right.
But this deep dive, it's strictly about mitigating risk. We're covering the danger zones to protect you from what the source is calling hidden traps. Okay, let's just jump right in. Let's unpack the three most critical, most urgent warnings from this material. We'll start with the one that multiple sources unanimously call the single most dangerous direction of the year.
Right. And that designation, it belongs unequivocally to the South sector. According to all of our compiled material, this area becomes the apex danger zone for 2026.
Apex Danger Zone.
Oh,
That's a heavy title.
it is. And to understand why it's so severe, we have to look at the elemental timing. It's not random. The risk comes from this highly specific, very volatile astrological confluence. The South sector becomes the location of the Grand Duke, the Taisui.
Okay, the Taisui.
And this happens during a year that's already designated as a double fire year.
Right.
That combination, it doesn't just increase the danger, it magnifies it exponentially. The notes even describe it as potentially catastrophic.
Wait, hold on. For listeners who might not track all the specifics, we should clarify those terms. So we're in the horse year, 2026, which is a fire element find itself. What exactly makes it a double fire year?
That's the critical question, yes.
Yeah.
A normal horse year already carries strong fire energy. That's its nature. The double fire part means the elemental cycle of the calendar year itself aligns with and just supercharges that intrinsic fire.
So it's like fuel on the fire.
Exactly. It makes the energy highly volatile, dynamic, very fast-moving.
Yeah.
Now, put the Grand Duke, the Taisui, in the...
Which is already a fire direction.
Which is already a fire element direction.
Yeah.
Yes. You see the problem. Energetically, the Grand Duke represents the reigning authority for the year, the emperor, if you will. And its core requirement is simple: stillness and respect. You must never, ever disturb or face the Grand Duke directly.
I see.
So when you combine that need for absolute quiet with this explosive, amplified, double fire energy, you basically create an energetic pressure cooker. Any disturbance, a renovation, heavy digging, even just excessive loud activity, it's seen as directly confronting that authority.
And that's where the sources get really intense. They move from the technical stuff to some serious warnings. They detail extreme risks that go way beyond just, standard bad luck. We're talking physical consequences, fire hazards, severe illness, accidents, massive conflicts. One of the annual notes we have actually says the negative impact is, quote, far greater and faster than most people expect.
Yes. And given that explosive potential, the avoidance measures they're absolute. The material is very strict on this. First, avoid all water features in the South.
Which seems counterintuitive, right? Water puts out fire.
It does, but in this context, water and fire clash violently. Agitating water can paradoxically trigger the fire energy. It's like throwing gasoline on it. Second, reduce activity dramatically. No loud parties, no giant sound systems. Keep it quiet.
Okay.
And this is probably the most crucial one. It's in all the sources. Never, under any circumstances, renovate, drill, or do any kind of major physical disturbance in the South, not without professional feng shui guidance that includes, specific date selection.
And that connects us directly to your immediate environment, right? If your main door, the main mouth of energy for your home or your office desk, if it sits in the south sector of your building, The sources explicitly say you must pay attention. Your year will be defined by this one sector.
Exactly. It connects this ancient map to your everyday life.
Okay, so that covers the big seismic risk in the south. Now let's shift to the second major area of concern. Moving a little bit west,
Yeah.
the southwest sector. And this one focuses on fire, yes, but also more acutely on health.
The Southwest is. It's a complicated one. It's intrinsically linked to the Earth element. But in 2026, because of these annual shifts, it becomes, quote, highly fire prone.
Hmm.
This is where the Amplify Fire of the Year interacts negatively with the energy that's already in the Southwest. And that energy governs things like domestic harmony and health, especially vitality. The sources are really clear that this isn't just about the risk of a physical fire, like a blaze. The intensified fire energy affects your personal vitality. It's like an overheating environment that can lead to burnout, high blood pressure, inflammatory issues.
So the environment is literally triggering a response in the body.
It is the
Yeah.
body, yes.
And the notes have some very specific, really relatable examples here. This is everyday stuff. It says if you have high heat appliances, a gas stove, deep fryers, even just plugs for heavy equipment in that part of your home,
Yeah.
you have to be extra careful.
Precisely. And they also stress that high activity can act like bellows on a fire. So if the Southwest is your main entrance or a really busy kitchen, all that movement and friction can trigger this volatile energy much faster.
So what are the protective measures? They seem pretty practical.
They are. It's a mix of physical and, let's say, energetic. Reduce the use of heat in that area. Simple. Double check all your electrical switches and connections. Be proactive about it. And then, interestingly, the sources all recommend keeping up rigorously with annual health checkups,
Focusing on what specifically?
focusing on inflammation and cardiovascular health.
I see. So there's that direct link again between the environmental energy and physical health.
It's the key takeaway for the Southwest. The hazard isn't just about protecting the building from fire. It's linked directly to maintaining your own internal vitality, avoiding that burnout. Okay, so that brings us to the final of the three big danger zones, the Northwest sector. This area, according to the sources, carries severe illness energy.
Right. And this is the part of the material that it's pretty chilling, actually. The warning here states that an illness that doctors can't diagnose or cure may be sourced directly from disturbance in your house. That's a very pointed warning. It suggests the cause is energetic, not, biological.
It's a huge claim, and it demands a deeper look at the mechanism they're describing. The illness energy they talk about settling in the Northwest, it's often linked to what's called the second star in classical feng shui.
And what does that do?
It's known for causing chronic, drawn-out problems. It's not an acute illness that a doctor can easily spot. It's more about affecting the body's key flow over time, which can lead to these complex, debilitating, and often untraceable chronic conditions.
Which makes the warning about physical disturbance even more serious.
Much more serious. The rules here are incredibly strict. You are explicitly told, do not drill, do not hack, don't even hang a heavy picture in the Northwest without first consulting a professional for proper date selection.
That's a hard rule, that.
It is. Because the notes warn that the negative impact, once it's triggered by that physical act of renovation, it can spread. Systemically, it can affect everyone at home, not just the person who, drilled the hole.
And the material really drives this home with a very stark quote. It says, "Money can't fix what energy triggers."
That's the one.
It's a powerful statement.
Yeah.
For someone who might be skeptical, what's the mechanism? How does drilling a hole in a wall create a systemic illness?
The interpretation is that the physical disturbance, the hammering, the vibration, it acts like a trigger. It awakens this latent negative quin that's settled in that sector for the year.
You're activating it.
You're activating that
Okay.
illness start, yes. And by doing that, you release that energy into the entire internal circulation of the home. It infects the environmental quin. And once it's systemic, the damage requires complex, often expensive remediation that goes way beyond the cost of the original renovation.
So that's what the quote means. Conventional solutions don't work on an energetic problem.
Exactly.
That idea that just drilling into a wall could trigger something so serious. It really underscores why you'd want to pay attention to this stuff.
Okay, let's pivot for a moment to round out the picture. We've covered the big three, south, southwest, northwest, but there are two other inauspicious sectors that also demand caution.
Absolutely, we should touch on them. Let's move to the southeast first. This sector carries what the sources call explosive fame and branding energy.
Which sounds good on the surface. Fame, branding.
It does, but the risk profile here is volatile. Because of the firehorse year's influence, this energy can cause a very fast rise, but also an equally fast and dramatic fall.
So it's unstable.
Very unstable. The potential problems are things like sudden loss of reputation, intense emotional instability, burnout, and just general confusion about your career.
And what's the specific advice for that sector?
It's simple but crucial. Remove all crawling plants from the southeast.
Crawling plants, why? They're seen as dragging down or constricting the energy flow. In a sector that's already this unstable, anything representing being tangled up or clinging is seen as a real detriment.
Fascinating.
Okay.
Okay, last one. The West. What's happening there?
The West sector carries what's called disruptive energy. It directly targets communication, business deals, trade, so it's cited as causing slow business, generating contractual disputes, agitation, and just unnecessary arguments.
And the recommendations there are also about plants, right?
Yes. First, declutter the West aggressively. And specifically, you must remove any thorny plants, especially a cactus.
Why thorny plants?
The sources say that sharp, prickly objects intensify that disruptive energy. They can turn minor disagreements into serious fights.
So if we pull back and look at all 5 of these warnings, illness in the Northwest, confrontation in the South, fire in the Southwest, reputation risk in the Southeast, disputes in the West, it all seems to connect back to one central, repeated theme in all this material:
It does.
the need for professional expertise.
Precisely. The overarching requirement, stressed again and again, is the absolute need for professional feng shui guidance, especially when you're dealing with the extreme dangers in the South and Northwest during a year this volatile. DIY activation, or, trying to fix it yourself, is explicitly called risky and can backfire.
Because it's too complex.
It's exceptionally complex. It requires proper date selection, a deep analysis of how the energy interacts with your specific building's chart. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
So this deep dive into 2026, the Firehorse year,
Mm-hmm.
it really demands a high degree of awareness from you, the listener, especially regarding those critical sectors, South, Southwest, and Northwest. Whether you're planning a renovation or just trying to optimize your workspace, knowing where these risks are is just paramount.
And moving beyond that surface-level advice, understanding the mechanics of why the South becomes so volatile, or how the Northwest can trigger these chronic conditions. That's the real value here. It lets you use this knowledge proactively instead of just reacting after a problem has already been triggered.
And that really leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to explore on your own. Building on how serious these warnings are, if something as subtle as a crawling plant in the wrong room or just drilling a small hole in a wall, if that can genuinely trigger massive financial failure or a serious health crisis, what other subtle energetic forces in our daily lives, our colors, our furniture, our technology, what are we completely unaware of? We've really only just scratched the surface of the environment that is actively shaping our reality every single day. That's all the time we have for this deep dive. We hope this knowledge serves you well as you prepare for the volatile year ahead.